Villains in video games are some of the most important characters in the story. They are portrayed as the antagonist, bane of the world's existence, or both, and conclude the story. And I enjoy most of these villains as they do their job well. However, not all of these villains are good, some are pretty bad. And I'm going to say my 5 favorites, as well as my 5 least favorites. Please keep in mind that this is my list, not yours, as some popular villains in video games will not be on this list. Fair warning that I may spoil certain endings and important story elements. And remember, a good villain should be cunning, evil, well thought out, and eventually put up a good fight. I will line this up by saying my least favorites and then favorites every other time in a pattern. However, before we say the number 1 spots, I will go over one honorable and dishonorable mention, as leaving certain villains out felt wrong. So without further ado, let's finally hatch this evil plot. This scripting is so terrible.
23, 24, 25... not nearly enough aliens! Want us to get more? No, I want you to get me a cheeseburger and a shake. That'll be easier. Cheeseburgers don't run as fast as little alien varmints. Idiot, get me more aliens! Y'all want fries with that? I reckon that hurt a bit. Wait a minute, I need to go over yonder. Sorry. Precious little alien! I'll harness their hyper-go-on power, and then nothing will stop me. I know I say that every time, but this time, really, nothing will stop me.
Mother Brain is a villain that doesn't get a lot of attention, good or bad. To me, I don't think she's a very good villain. Like the other villains on the worst list, she's mostly on this list because of her character. Originally, she started out as an artificial intelligence created by the Chozo, but after the space pirates killed Samus's parents, she became a space pirate member. And not only that, but the leader of the space pirates. And then came the lame fights with her. In the original, it was really easy because you just spam your missile for a few minutes and you win. And the only attack she has, you don't even have to avoid because you'll have so much health by then. But if you actually want to avoid her attacks, then it's actually pretty aggravating as there's lava nearby with the small platform. The final fight against her in Super Metroid is actually very hit or miss. You either like it, which is fine if you do because it's admittedly complete, or you're like me and think it's just a long and annoying fight. All you do is just spam your missile for a few minutes and she'll never die until eventually you come across none other than
Dr. Octagonopus!
You literally have no chance of avoiding this attack, and it will deplete most of your health. Thankfully, your baby Metroid hatchling comes to save you, but she eventually kills it anyway. And every time you kill Mother Brain, it will set off a time bomb that literally has no effect whatsoever. Oh, but it doesn't stop there! My real hatred for Mother Brain is actually in Metroid Other M. Granted, you don't get to fight her, but her conscience was responsible for a majority of the events in the game. And Melissa Bergman, who not only turns out to be the MB project that somehow generated Mother Brain's personality, was actually trying to recreate Mother Brain. However, she's lower on the list because, despite being a hateable character, she's actually not in that many Metroid games, especially nowadays, so it would seem unfair to put her any higher. But regardless, I still hate her as a villain.
I know I say that every time, but this time, really, nothing will stop me.
Kirby villains are actually some of my favorite villains of all time. They all have this sort of personality and charm that I just like somehow. I'm not even kidding when I say that there isn't a single Kirby villain out there that I don't like. I was tempted to go with Magolor from Kirby's Return to Dreamland, but then there was another villain that I forgot about that I just liked a little more. Or rather, a group of villains. Out of all the Kirby villains, in my opinion, the Squeak Squad is probably the most creative of them all. They're a group of rodent robbers who are trying to find a treasure chest that Daroj believes contains an ultimate power. I don't know why, but rodent robbers just sounds kind of funny to me. In my opinion, I think that the Squeak Squad is the most determined, and they even succeed at what they're trying to do. Like the Cooper Gang, each member of the Squeak Squad has different attributes that become important to the group. First, there's Spinny, the speed of the group. She's the only member in the group that can swim. And she's also the most mobile member in the group. And in fact, it's been said that she was the one who took Kirby's strawberry shortcake. Plus, she's a ninja, and as we all know, ninjas are amazing! Then there's Storo, who's the muscle of the group. He might be slow, but he's very powerful, and he's even a pirate.
You are a pirate.
And beating up is, in my opinion, the most satisfying of all the members. Then there's Doc, who's the brains of the group. And he's actually the most important member next to Daroch, in my opinion. To me, you need smart ones in a group. And he's even created two of the bosses, those being Mecha Krako and Yatogan. Oh, and these bosses were good, might I add. Finally, there's Dark. All I can say about him is, great design, he's very determined, and he's an amazing leader. However, they're lower on the list because not only are they kind of easy, but in Kirby Mass Attack, you find the Squeak Squad also helping Kirby, and it is unknown why that is. Hopefully there'll be in a new game that explains that. But otherwise, good show, Daroch, and we'll miss you, or at least I will. His villainous acts, I mean.
I know I say that every time, but this time really, nothing will stop me.
You knew this person would appear on the worst list.
Travis! Took you long enough? Thought the suspense was gonna kill me. How will he make his entrance? Is he emo or grunge? What's his fighting style? How's his broke-ass face gonna look when he dies? So much hostility. Why? Why'd you kill him?
Ironic question coming from an assassin. Did you honestly think you could take so many lives and never suffer retribution? Have you never even seen a kung fu movie, spy flick, or western? Shakespeare, for God's sake!
If you wanted revenge, you should have come for me.
Not only did you murder my father, but my two brothers as well. That is why I took your best friend's life. Makes sense, Travis? It's called poetic justice.
I think I've made my point. Pretty much everyone in the Countdown community has ranted about this guy, so now it's my turn. He's actually one of the most hated video game characters in history. I'm not the only one who thinks this. He pretends to kill Sylvia, Henry, and Shinobu, and this enrages Travis. How did Travis not understand that those heads were fake when he was just with Sylvia about a minute ago? Heck, Henry had to explain that to him.
Well, aren't I a gullible idiot?
Well, not completely. Because he did kill Bishop Siddock. Well, at least his henchmen did. Then again, pretty much everything he's done was either done by his hitmen or his spy tools. But he's rank 1, so shouldn't he be doing all the murdering? Even this final battle hasn't been on his own. Say, speaking of which, it's known to be one of the worst in existence. This battle has 3 forms, all of which are bad in their own way. The first form is really easy, nothing much but a slashing fest. Then after a while you wonder why his health stops dropping. It's because you have to lose one of these with him. Okay, it follows the story, yes, but still, do the developers really think it was a good idea? The second form is just as bad, but for the exact opposite reason. It is insanely cheap. His attacks are too fast and your recovery is too slow, and he constantly teleports all around the room. He can even instant kill you too, and it's with a regular attack, which makes it even worse. Although you can dodge these attacks, the only way you can dodge them is if your timing is 100% perfect. After you manage to beat this form, he shows his true form. It's a giant balloon! Granted, the difficulty is somewhat balanced, I'll admit, but still, the design is just atrocious. And did I mention that killing him isn't satisfying at all? Okay, I'll admit that it's symbolic for meaning that revenge isn't satisfying, but still, after all this guy's done, after how bad this boss fight is, why couldn't it have been more like Alice Twilight? Why did it have to end with this guy? It actually would have been more satisfying if it was like this. However, he's lower on the list because despite being one of the most hated characters in gaming history, he's actually pretty unpredictable, especially for a video game villain. Oh, and you were expecting an Audrika Flame reference? Come on, be original for once.
I know I say that every time, but this
if there's something you must know about me, I actually like the games that Sony has created. In fact, believe it or not, I actually think that the PS3 is better than the Wii. Granted, I don't own many of these franchises, but I can tell that there are lots of great franchises out there, such as Little Big Planet and Jak and Daxter. However, there is one problem that Sony has. It's their villains. It's not that these villains are bad or anything, but it's just that most of them feel one-dimensional and have a lack of personality. However, there is one villain that is the exact opposite. Yes, I'm talking about Dr. Nefarious. Okay, sure, he's a villainous nutcase and all, but hey, he's still a fantastic villain. Despite being the recurring antagonist of this series, he first debuted in Up Your Arsenal, where it explains his backstory. He actually used to be a squishy himself, but after an accident by his 9th grade biology class bully, Captain Quark, he ended up turning into a robot. So thus his plan was to destroy all squishies and turn them into robots. The real reason he's on this list, however, is because of his role in A Crack in Time. At the beginning of the game, you find out that Dr. Nefarious was the one who captured Clank at the end of Tools of Destruction, and he transported him to none other than the Great Clock. Why did he do this, you may ask? Well, halfway through the game, you find out that he needed Clank in order to get into the Orvis Chamber, but he's leaving out two very important rules.
Number 1. Under no circumstances is it to be used as a time machine. The clock is not meant to alter time, only to keep it. Number 2. Should you find yourself wanting to use the clock as a time machine, consult rule number 1. Did you hear that, Sigmund? Because rule number 1, you see, says don't do it.
I brought this up because he was planning to go to the Orvis Chamber so he could do this.
I'll be able to rule all the rights in the universe. Every villain who has ever stumbled will get a do-over. Every protagonist's triumph will be reversed. Until finally, a new present is created, in which the heroes always lose!
Why haven't other villains attempted this yet? As for his personality, well, all I can say is that Dr. Nefarious is by far the funniest villain I have ever seen in a video game. This clip pretty much sums it up.
Lawrence, I'm rehearsing my epic romantic action comedy space opera!
No wonder why the community absolutely loves this guy. Even Insomniac itself likes this guy. He was on the Insomniac logo in A Crack in Time, and he was playable in All for One. In PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, you don't get to play as him, but he's a stage gimmick in the San Francisco stage. Of all the Ratchet and Clank villains, he has had the most appearances out of them all. And in all honesty, I wouldn't want to have it any other way.